Corruption is both major cause and a result of poverty around the world. India's richest 1% holds more than 4 times the wealth held by bottom 70% of the country's population. In world's largest democracy and the country with the second largest population, who manages to handle the job of corruption and how effective they are? This is our topic for today. CBI traces its origin to the Special Police Establishment 1941. Functions of SPE back then were to investigate cases of bribery and corruption in transactions with the War and Supply Department of India during the Second World War. The superintendence of the SPE was with War Department. Initially, it was set up only to solve the purpose of World War II, but eventually it felt likely to continue to investigate cases of bribery and corruption by the central government employees. The Delhi Police Establishment Act 1946 was brought for this purpose. The superintendence of the SPE was transferred from War Department to Home Department, and the functions of SPE was enlarged to cover all departments of the Government of India. The jurisdiction of the SPE extended to all the union territories and could be extended to the state with the consent of the state government. Here it is important to remember CBI can probe into a case involving state government employees only at the invitation of the state government. If the state government doesn't feel like to involve CBI, then CBI has no legal rights to interfere in the matter. It was in 1963 Delhi Police Establishment Act acquired its popular name Central Bureau of Investigation (CBI). Over the years, CBI established a reputation for impartiality and competence. Supreme Court and various high courts started entrusting CBI and suggested CBI to investigate cases like murder, kidnapping, terrorist crime, and so on. It was in 1987 Anti-Corruption Division and Special Crimes Division were set up under CBI. Eventually, due to the workload, 5 more divisions were set up, and as of now, there are 7 divisions in CBI. The role of CBI is now attached to the Ministry of Personnel, which is under Prime Minister's office. Hence, the head of the CBI reports directly to the PM, just like the FBI reports directly to the President of the United States of America. CBI Director will be appointed by a collegium comprising of the Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India, and the Leader of Opposition. The CBI Director cannot be appointed or removed without the consent of this collegium. The CBI Director can be removed on the grounds of misbehavior only by the order from the President after an inquiry. CBI, being a statutory body, has its own limitations. To list a few, CBI depends on Home Ministry for staffing, since many of its investigators come from Indian Police Service, which means CBI doesn't have autonomy to some extent on staffing. CBI, which runs by IPS officers on deputation, is also vulnerable to the government's ability to manipulate the evidence. Since police is a state subject and CBI acts as per procedures prescribed by the Code of Criminal Procedure (CRPC), which means it is a police agency, hence it needs the consent of the state government to inquire a case of that state. States like Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal withdrew consent, which means CBI can only be a mere spectator to any crimes that happen in these states. The CBI still have the authority to probe old cases registered when general consent existed. Withdrawal of state's consent will only bar CBI from registering a case, but the CBI could still file cases in Delhi and continue to investigate people inside such states. And also CBI is placed in second schedule of Right to Information Act 2005. Hence, it provides an exception to obtain information from CBI through Right to Information Act. Due to excessive political interference and financial dependency, the CBI has often been criticized for being a puppet in the hands of the government. In the infamous Coalgate scam case, the Supreme Court itself raised the question of the Bureau's independence and said that the CBI has become the state's parrot, only screaming and repeating the master's voice. Some experts argued to place CBI under the independent body to investigate cases without the government interference. CBI has become a weapon for political vendetta to the dispensing government that could choose its opponents when needed. For example, consider the CBI raids on Lalu Prasad Yadav. It started just before the Bihar elections in 2015. CBI has every right to investigate a person at any time, but the timing of this investigation hints that it has a pre-arrangement with the ruling government. Also, cases taken up by the CBI are not time-bound. There are instances where cases were dragged for decades. While welcoming the recent CBI court judgment on the Kerala Catholic nun Sister Abhaya's case, it is astonishing to learn how a case once dismissed as a suicide by the CBI itself proved to be a cold-blooded murder by the same CBI after 28 years. This shows how pathetic and pitiful our investigation could be. And the internal tussle in CBI agency between CBI Director Alok Verma and Special Director Rakesh Asthana, where CBI charged its own Special Director Rakesh Asthana for accepting bribes to settle a case involving controversial meat exporter Moin Qureshi, raises many doubts. While many celebrate Babri Masjid verdict, there are criticisms against CBI for diluting evidence of RSS and its affiliations demolishing Babri Masjid. And we can go on with this list, but the fact is, over the course of 80 years of CBI's history, one has to admit that it has proven its merits in handling complex cases, but at the same time, it has failed miserably when we need it the most. In a country like India, where the corruption has been rampant, corruption index position slipping year after year, and the divisive politics that we dwell in currently, the need of the CBI is more now than ever. The better it stays away from politics and be transparent, the better our country will perform in corruption index. Much has been said and done about the anti-corruption measures and letting CBI being independent in the last 7 decades. We all know that our system failed miserably and cannot afford to do the mistake of taking CBI for granted. Thank you.